In the Shadow of the Valley by Maggot Moshpit, Chapter 11. Zik was lucky. Hex was not. Zik stumbled to his feet, gasping for air. A nearby soldier ran over and caught him before he could fall over again.
Sir, are you all right?
Zik coughed and sputtered, managing to speak.
Never mind me. You look like hell.
The soldier looked at a wound in his arm.
Oh, it's nothing, sir. It'll heal right up. Can't say the same for this guy, though.
The two felines looked at the body of Hex.
He had the honor of breaking my fall, it seems.
Hex's eyes had closed at some point during the fall. Zik walked over and crouched beside him, placing his paws on his still warm eyelids. It was customary to open them, but something made Zik stop. Strangely, he got the overwhelming fear of something he might see if he opened those eyes, so he stepped back and rubbed his paws together.
Sir?
Nothing.
He looked around.
Where are all the monks?
The soldier pointed to the burning building. Several other soldiers were battering at the doors with axes. Zik grunted.
Fools.
The soldier wasn't sure if Zik was referring to the soldiers trying to get in or the monks, but he nodded anyway. Zik shook his head at the building and walked towards the gate. It was aflame on the other side, but now there was no need to burn it. Zik had overestimated the monks' chances. He pushed the locking bar up and swung the blazing gate wide open. Stonewall and Leol burst through, one wielding a giant sword and the other a giant lance.
Where are they? Zik, what's going on?
He pointed to the building just as another section collapsed.
Hold up in there.
As the rest of the felines swarmed into the courtyard, Stonewall seemed to lose steam.
Really? No fighting?
Leol chuckled.
I don't know, dear. If we wait, they might come out.
He grumbled.
Burning them might be just as satisfying.
Zik curled up his nose.
What? That isn't very honorable, and frankly a little horrid. This siege was just for fish and land, right?
Did no one tell you?
What?
Leol coughed, embarrassed.
Well, their belief system is...
I've heard enough! Open those doors!
Zik approached the burning building, grabbing an axe from one of the soldiers. Stonewall shrugged.
He outranks us.
Zik called through the doors.
I'm going to chop down this door, and then you're all going to come out unarmed and surrender!
Not giving the pandas a choice in the matter, he gave a mighty swing and finished the work the other soldiers had started. Battered, singed, and coughing from smoke, the remaining red pandas spilled out onto the courtyard, some rolling over into the grass, and a couple trying to attack the felines. After the lot of them were rounded up, faces downcast and bleary, Stonewall stepped forward.
Well, proof we won the siege. Someone get these sorry-looking fools into a cage or something.
The prisoners of war were rousted to their feet and led towards the smoldering remains of the front gate, which had since fallen off its hinges. Leol spotted a couple in the crowd, briefly joining paws. She swung down with her lance shaft, smacking their paws apart.
Not while you're our prisoners, you.
The two pandas growled at her, but did not join paws again. Zik looked each one over, then turned to find Tezar. She was nowhere to be seen.
Tezar? Tezar! Where's Tezar?
The soldier shrugged.
I haven't seen her, sir.
Moments after the red pandas were gone, Zif and Farl strode through the gates.
Zik, get your gear and your men. Zip is in hot pursuit of the blacksmith. It seems he slipped out the back.
Zif did not look happy, and neither did Zik.
That must be where Tezar is. Come on, men. We've got some running to do.
There was a flood of activity as Stonewall shouted over the din.
Hey, 10 of you stay here with me and Leol. There's plundering to be done.
A group broke off and waited with Stonewall, who waved to Zik as he passed.
Good luck, sir. Don't push my men too hard now.
Zik yelled back.
Thank you, Stonewall. You're a true patriot.
Stonewall chuckled, then turned towards the building as it gave one last groan of anguish.
We've got some work to do. Then we'll take these prisoners up north to Corvus.
We could always just take them to the capital.
Stonewall looked slightly sheepish.
I don't know. Something Zik said made me think. They'd be treated much better in Corvus. They've gone through enough already.
You aren't going soft on me now, are you, darling? You know what they get up to.
We might be able to change their minds. Let them read the text of La Roja.
Fine. North it is.
Martin's leg was killing him. The bandage had come loose, but he couldn't stop to check and see if it was bleeding again, due to the 10 or 20 felines on his tail. Kethresh was in front, throwing caution to the wind as she carved a path through the woods with her sword. Bronze was gasping for air.
The cave. If we can make it to the cave. It was a long walk. Can we?
He paused to breathe.
Make it?
Martin wiped sweat from his eyes.
We have to.
Zip was jogging out front, barely breaking a sweat. All the felines jogged behind him in formation with relative ease, following Zip closely. Zip knew he could outrun the blacksmith, but he kept his distance, waiting until they tried to hide or ran out of breath and collapsed. Although the trail of destruction was easy enough to follow, Zip kept Bronze's back in sight at all times. Farrell hurtled out of the forest and matched his pace to Zip.
Zick, Ziff, and most of Stonewall's army are on the way. Is Tezar here?
Zip shook his head.
No.
Farrell frowned.
She seems to be missing.
He dropped back and caught his breath, swigging water from a flask, preparing to run back to Zick and Ziff. In the excitement and combat, no one had bothered to check the dead bodies to see if any weren't dead bodies. One of the dead bodies groaned and sat up, rubbing her head and looking around. Tezar stumbled to her feet.
What? Oh, shit!
She stamped her paw. It had happened again. No, it was happening again. She quickly looked around, grabbed her bastard sword, and ran out the small door, which was still ajar. As she was exiting, she saw the rear of Zick and Ziff's bolstered army, presumably going after Martin. With a burst of speed granted from pure anger and frustration, Tezar caught up with the rear guard. The moon was high now, and Zip could see his quarry was getting weary. Bronze loped along doggedly, sucking in great gulps of air as he struggled to keep up with Martin. The cave wouldn't be far off now. Zip knew where they were heading, and he was fine with it. If they bottled themselves up in the cave, it wouldn't be very difficult to capture them. Further back, Zick and Ziff ran behind Zip's group, the soldiers' feet behind them rhythmically pounding the dirt. Tezar suddenly appeared beside them, and Zick nearly tripped in surprise.
Tezar! We thought you were ahead.
I was beaten by that bitch they've got with them.
Mind your tone, Tezar. Remember who you're talking to.
Yes, sir. Sorry. Head injury.
Zick chuckled.
Maybe you shouldn't be running. No matter. We have them in our sight. So says Farrell.
Kethresh spotted the cave first.
Come on, faster!
She barreled into the cave and into the secret passage, skidding to a halt and breathing deeply. Arbalest was next in, then Martin. Bronze was a little slower. Zip was already at the cave mouth, and he saw Bronze dart to the left, but did not see where he went. Stopping momentarily to draw his sword, he entered the cave slowly, his soldiers following suit.
Looks like...
The cave was completely empty. Zip looked around, but he could not see hide nor hair of anyone he just witnessed enter the cave. Zick joined him moments later, most of the soldiers waiting outside.
Brother, where are they? I don't know. They came in here, I'm sure.
Zick cuffed him on the ear.
Well, obviously they didn't. Men, fan out! Pick up their trail!
Zip shook his head.
I swear by my affidavit, the fat one darted in here a second ago.
Zick had already gone. Zip growled again and entered the cave further, walking along the left wall. He examined it closely, sometimes tapping it with his sword. A few of his soldiers waited by the entrance, panting from the run. They made quite the din, and the sound echoed around the chamber. A strange rock made Zick stop. It seemed to jut out at an impossible angle. He looked at it closer, and suddenly a wave of nausea came over him. And, unfortunately for him, given the day's events, overtook him. The soldiers at the cave entrance either cringed or giggled as Zip lost his lunch on the cave floor. Stumbling to the right, Zip braced himself on the wall, coughing.
Goddamn vertigo.
One of the soldiers stepped forward.
What happened?
Zip coughed once more.
That rock just had a weird perspective. It's nothing serious.
The soldier stepped forward and looked where Zip had.
Huh. You're right.
Zip looked around the cave some more and continued along the wall until he reached the entrance again.
It couldn't be a hallucination. They have to be here. Wait.
Although he knew it was impossible, it was the only other option. Zip looked up at the ceiling. As he expected, there was nothing there.
What the hell?
At that moment, Tezar burst into the cave and ran up to Zip.
Sir, permission to speak frankly?
Zip nodded, and Tezar went off the rails.
You let them go! You let that murderer go by chasing mirages into an empty cave! You must have a good...
That is quite enough, Tezar. I do not know what to tell you. I saw the skunk dart into the cave. I know I did.
Tezar turned around and grasped her head.
Okara cannot rest easy until Marten is dead! He needs his revenge!
Zip stepped forward and placed a comforting paw on her shoulder.
We've all lost comrades in the war. If we obsessed over each one, we'd never get anywhere. Let go.
Tezar sniffed again, taking hold of Zip's arm for lack of anything else to do.
I knew the risks. I guess I thought bad things only happen to strangers.
Zip led her out of the cave.
Don't make this personal. It only makes things harder.
Soon, the cave was empty. Despite this, the sounds of someone trying to catch their breath could still be heard. Zip and Zik sat gloomily outside the cave. The suns were about to rise, and the glow from the first could just be seen over the trees. Zik looked at the tracks under his feet. 100 footprints, indistinguishable from one another, and only a few were their prey.
Well, I think it's safe to assume that we screwed up. I was thinking the exact same thing, brother.
Zip emerged from the cave once again. He had been going in and out for hours, each time sure he would find something he missed. Each time, he was disappointed.
Zik, have you found any more tracks?
He scoffed.
No, I found the trail they left coming here a day ago. Our tracks and theirs heading for the cave, but none leaving the area.
Zip turned back to the cave.
So you're saying they're still here?
Zik stamped his foot.
No! They are not here anymore! We would have found them!
Zip stood.
I can't explain it, but somehow they gave us the slip. We need to have a meeting. Zip, get Tezar to meet us up this hill a ways.
The secret room was very dark, and no one dared light a torch. Marten had very carefully sought out something for them to eat, but beyond that there was barely any movement. Bronze and Kethresh were lying against the wall, and Arbalest was pacing slowly. Marten lay on a rush mat he found in the corner, but he couldn't fall asleep. The conversation between Tezar and Zip echoed through his mind.
What have I done?
He shook his head. It was self-defense. Self-defense made him push that boulder and leave a woman widowed and grieving over a dead mate she clearly loved a great deal. He got to thinking about what he could have done differently. Maybe if he had given the felines fair warning, they would have been able to get out of the way in time. They probably would have caught up with them then.
It was us or them, Marten. You couldn't have done anything differently.
He clutched his shoulders. If that was true, why did he still feel so horribly about the death of some felines who were trying to kill them? He used to dream about doing the very same thing. A flash of fire went across Marten's vision, and he recalled the sight of his fox's paw sticking out of a pile of rubble. He whimpered, almost silently, and realized with a start that he had been on the edge of sleep the whole time, jolting awake. He lay for a while in silence. Every now and again, Tezar's barely audible sob would play back in his mind, unbidden. For some reason, he also kept thinking about what he had seen in the vision he shared with Lynn, which seemed to get more ethereal the more he remembered it. Putting everything out of his mind, he turned over slowly and whispered, very quietly.
You think they're gone yet?
Arbalest whispered back.
I can still hear them.
Really?
They're walking around above us.
Bronze nodded, but no one could see he did. Upon realizing his mistake, he added,
I can too.
I'm going to sleep.
Zip Zik, Zif, and Tezar sat on top of the hill that contained the cave. Zif had created a small fire, and now they sat around it. Tezar shrugged.
What do we do now?
I don't know how, but they gave us the slip.
However they did, they will have a head start on us, but they will need to rest soon.
As will we. I say we rest up and pick up their trail in the morning. We've been fighting and running around all night.
Tezar scoffed.
I'm not tired. I don't.
Her words were stifled by a yawn, and all three brothers laughed dryly. Zif took off his cloak and lay it by the fire.
Tezar, get some sleep, but order the rest of the soldiers to do so as well before you pass out.
He promptly flopped down and looked into the fire, his brothers following suit with their own cloaks. Tezar stood, fatigue suddenly weighing on her mind.
Yes, sir.
Sweet dreams, Tezar.
Marten knew it wasn't a good idea to go to sleep. His dream was strange. It started in his hometown, or what was left of it, standing once again in the fire, looking down at the black-gloved paw sticking out of the rubble. This time, though, he didn't try to free the paw. He didn't need to. With a rumble, the fox rose from the rubble, shrugging off giant chunks of rock and wood as she stood. Marten would have gone to her, kissed her face, and hugged her if it weren't for the terrible injuries she had. Her beauty was now gone, replaced by bone and musculature. Blood-matted patches of fur could be seen through her torn, home-woven dress as she staggered forward.
Kier, please forgive me.
The thing that was once Marten's mate, Kier, stopped and rasped.
Marten, it wasn't your fault.
You keep saying that, but it's not true. I did this.
Shh, my love. I know.
Marten almost stepped forward to be with her, but something held him back. Not her appearance, but the simple fact that she was supposed to be dead. In his culture, even just talking to the dead was bad luck. He stepped back into a table he didn't see. Whirling around, he saw the feline and canine from the strange shop in Lynn's vision, holding paws and drinking fragrant liquid. He staggered back, only to fall into the skeletal arms of his lover.
This is your fault.
Marten gulped as both sitting Atrians looked up at him in unison.
Let us live, please.
We're happy together.
What? I'm not threatening you.
The two reached towards their heads.
We're not so different.
If you cut us, do we not bleed?
If you hurt us, do we not cry?
If you kill us, do you not feel remorse?
If you love us, do we not love?
Marten watched, unable to turn away, as the couple each stabbed themselves in the eyes with their claws, pulling out an eye each. They stood, and Marten held out his paw, unable to comprehend why he did. They dropped the eyes into his paw, except they weren't eyes anymore, but two perfectly round, smooth, and identical pearls. Marten examined one, ignoring the bloody eye sockets staring at him. He looked back up, but the felines and canine were gone. So was Kier. He rolled around, looking into the blood horizon for anything familiar.
Hello?
He looked at the pearls again, one from a canine and one from a feline. Neither had a drop of blood on them. He sat down in the rubble and looked at the pearls until the world faded into inky blackness. Marten opened his eyes, but was still in darkness. He rolled over, only to roll on top of Arbalest.
Ow!
Shh.
Arbalest caught himself, then dropped his tone.
Watch it, Halftail.
Sorry.
Kethresh tapped them both.
Get up. We're leaving.
Bronze's voice came from somewhere off to the left.
What? I can still hear the felines snoring.
Exactly. All the felines.
Marten had just woken up, and he was still groggy.
Wait. You want us to sneak out of here?
Yes. Come on, up.
I guess we could give them the slip. It's dangerous, though.
We need to get a head start on them. Besides, someone's bound to find our little hiding spot when they're waking up, stumbling around and looking for a place to piss.
All right. Good point.
Kethresh could be heard picking up her sword.
I'll go first.
There was silence and a distinct lack of movement. Marten was confused.
Kethresh?
There was no response. Arbalest chuckled softly.
She's already gone.
Oh. Well, I'll go next then.
He felt around in the dark until he found the exit. Groping along the wall, he eventually began to see light, and eventually he was standing at the entrance to the secret passage, overlooking a sea of snoring felines. Kethresh was crouching by the cave mouth already, and she looked back, giving a quick beckon. Marten made a gesture that said, "How the hell?" Kethresh just laughed silently and made a tiptoe gesture with her fingers. Marten rolled his eyes and stepped gently among the felines. He was glad for his shoes, which absorbed a great deal of sound. He had little trouble maneuvering among the sleeping felines, and soon he was on the other side. Presently he was joined by Arbalest, and all three looked back at Bronze. He was waiting at the other side of the cave, motionless. Marten could see the problem. Bronze was very short and was going to have a hard time stepping over the felines. All he could do was mouth, "Be careful," to Bronze, and hope for the best. Bronze was forced to lean over the first slumbering soldier and make a little hop to the other side, teetering awkwardly. He repeated this a few times without much incident, until he accidentally landed squarely on someone's paw. That someone jumped up and blinked.
What was that?
There was a pause, and Bronze spoke.
Just stepped on your paw. Sorry.
Oh. Be careful next time.
I will.
The feline went back to sleep. Bronze stood for a moment, then quickly hopped through the felines and arrived at the mouth of the cave. Marten was clutching his head with a look of disbelief on his face. Bronze flashed him a smile and followed Kethresh into the woods, the suns already high in the sky. Later that day, the snow leopard triplets were in a more optimistic mood. Ziff was munching on an insect leg as he spoke.
So what we need to do is keep going. If we look at the direction they were going, we can tell they were headed for the capital. Maybe we'll pick up their trail by then.
Tezar shrugged.
I don't know what else to do. You can't track someone who just disappears in a cloud of smoke.
Not even a cloud of smoke.
Zik waved a paw.
Anyway, we better get going before they get too far. Tezar, get the men ready to follow us. We're going ahead to pick up the trail.
The three stood and marched off in unison, leaving Tezar by the fire. She sighed, and stood as well, jogging down the side of the cave towards the soldiers who were having breakfast. Cole gazed through the looking-glass, studying the tree line.
That's it. Arden Forest.
His marching partner and captain of the army, Geft, nodded.
Yep. Densely packed woods, high insect population, and to top it all off, it cuts days off a journey over the Arden Mountains, and lands anyone travelling through on the doorstep of the capital.
Cole collapsed the telescope and placed it in a pouch.
Not to mention Frostblight is right on the way. We can liberate them and plunder the feline stash of weapons.
Geft grinned.
And to think the felines believe we've fallen into their trap and are attacking Folg. Underestimated our Harimau, eh?
I suppose.
He couldn't help but feel strange, however. Their luck was too good to be true. He grinned and shook his head.
It wasn't luck that brought us here, but skill.